Hello, welcome back to Space Engineers. So a brand new update has been released, and as per usual, a new DLC pack has come along with it, which is called the Apex Survival DLC, which is what we're going to be looking at today. So in a traditional fashion, what I've done is set up a lovely platform on the Earth-like planet, laid everything out, set up a bunch of lighting for no apparent reason, and we're just going to go through each of the models, see what they look like, and then that'll be that for this video. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into it. So grabbing hold my character, moving all the way across to here. This is the first one for the DLC pack, and that is the Type 2 drill. So these, and of course all the other ones in this pack, if they do have a base game version of it, so the base game drill, the base game welder, the base game grinder, they will all function identically. It's simply a different model and potentially a different animation tied to it. But yes, the drill Type 2, we've got a big one and a small one, and as you can see, it's a darn sight different compared to the base game version, because this looks like that very old bucket excavator mod, where it's just going to twiddle around when I turn on the power, and it'll just go and drill up everything as per usual. So turning around, pressing this lovely little button that I set up earlier, big button on the top there we go, and that's simply what it does. It just spins all the way around, and collects up all the stone, all the ore, like the traditional drill that we have in the base game. With the free camera getting a better look at this, so on the front there, we see each of the little buckets ready to scoop up everything, how it's spinning around, slight bit of white on the front there, adding a small little light, and all the way across up into here, we then got DRLO, and put my light on, cross onto the side here, we've got some more text, onto the back, traditional setup system with a conveyor port on each side, then on the very back there we are, up and looking down, all the way across. It looks very much like these square pits in this section right here. Onto the moving parts. There we are, underneath it. And that is that for the drill Type 2. And of course there is a small block version. I'm not going to turn this on, but it's just a very diddy version. They'll just spin around like the big one in the background, but it's just being very compact, squished down. I'm all ready for a small ship to go and equip. Anyway, moving all the way across over here, in fact turning that off because it is quite loud. There we go. Well, we need to bother showing this one animated because it is basically like the old version. But this is the Type 2 grinder, where as you can see we've got dual grinding discs to the front here, same on the small one, onto the side, and there we are, just a nice little touch-up, much more compact version of the grinder compared to the base game, but still it's got the same base as the drill, so we won't bother going through that. We'll bring free camera back over, and look at the very top of this thing, and there we are, so we've got some nice bits of detail all the way inside. A nice little suspension type system right here as well, with wires coming off it. We've got a red little handle that looks like an emergency switch that we just grab hold of, pull, and make the whole thing stop. A little handle on the side to hold on for dear life if it is floating away in space, and you don't have any jetpack fuel. Yes, that's that for the Type 2 grinder. Across the small one, much like the Type 2 drill, it's just a very small one. But down here we do have GRNO. It may mean to stand for a D, but definitely looks like an O to me. Yes, that's what it says on the side. And that's that for the small one. Moving across to this one on the side, no surprises here, this is a Type 2 welder, where that looks very, very different compared to the traditional welder. But what we've got here is like a mechanical arm. Now this was like a mod I did some time ago, where I believe it was an animated assembler, where it'd have one of these types of arms in the middle, just twiddling around, doing a 10 bit of work. But no, this is what we get. It's like a little gun on the front there, we've got a nozzle with a little yellow ring around the outside of it. Onto the side here we see all little tubes of the hydraulics, how it's going to be moving around. Little warning sign up and above here. On this side, again, some more writing that says WLDO. So I'm sorting that for welder 0. So there, we see danger. Onto the main body. Lovely little tube right here, which looks like it is some kind of gas canister to make this whole thing function. On the base here, we've got a little console that we cannot interact with. Onto here, we then got high pressure, a little arm. Up and above here, again, high voltage. Onto the side, same connection point as the other two. And onto the side with my light. There we are, the large welder Mark II. Of course, the small one, very, very similar, although not quite as similar, because as you see here, the arm itself behaves the exact same as that one in the background, but instead of having the gun section on top, instead of having the welder sector on top, this one sits all the way down. We can see it's largely the same as the one in the background. We do have caution here, running some little heat vents, round to the front, onto the side, little red light, two little buttons, and again on there, the WLD0. And there we are, so that's that set, the Welder Mark II, the Grinder Mark II, and the Drill Mark II. Once again, they are purely cosmetic, they do the exact same as the base game versions, they just look a hell of a lot better and a hell of a lot more modern. Anyway, moving all the way across on this lovely platform, across to here, now these two are very unique little blocks because they cover the same base things. So one of them is an auction farm, the right hand side is the auction farm, the other one is the algae farm for the new food system, where much like the base game version added with the update, is it's going to generate food over the time, and of course the auction one, which is generate auction over time as well, provided it has sunlight hitting it. Now what's going on with the way these two function together is the base game versions of these, if we're coming over to the farm, where you see that both of these are basically just cylinders with a square butt. These would just be plopped down into your base, maybe sticking on the outside. These two right here with the DLC pack act like solar panels, where you can have these built into a ship where they don't protrude out, instead they sit flush on the surface, and look even better if you do have it built into your ship on the inside, so you have this side facing the outside, this side on the inside. Now you just walk past it and get a nice view at the actual blocks themselves, by having just sticking out like a sore thumb. With the free camera coming over, getting a better look at these. So across here, the algae farm first of all, and there we are. So in the middle there, we see our little green bars of how efficient it is, and that's of course going to change with the sunlight. Into here, here's your algae, there's all the bubbles, which is very reminiscent of the lab block with all the bubbles sticking out, pushing it all the way through. And there we are. So yes, they are fully rendered, and not just a flat little JPEG, like some blocks tend to go for, or some games tend to go for, when using interior designs on blocks. That's going to be the same for the opposites. Towards the back, there's your connection point to actually connect up to the rest of your system to actually cook your food. And if you move it across to a specialized container, then over to here, the auction farm. There we go. Looks very much like a very odd mod. Now, this is something I said to myself as I was going through each of these blocks, is these all look like very odd mods, especially what we're going to see later on down there. That looks absolutely like one of the old food mods. They just plop in your world, it'll spin all the way around and you'll harvest food from. It looks like a banana farm or something like that. No, these look all very reminiscent of very odd mods, which is jolly good stuff, because I did absolutely enjoy those mods, but they were very performance heavy. But yes, largely the same as the other one, but instead of the algae with all the bubbles, in here we've got a bunch of little plants on little tubes, and on the inside, that's what it looks like. So we've got a double dub, the opposites, and there's your connection point. Looking down and below, and there we are with those two. Now moving across to these, so these are more decorative blocks, which are basically alternative versions to the fish block, which if you watched my videos in the past, you'll know that I absolutely adore that block because of the way it brings so much life to a room, which is a simple bit of animation. Now this one is my personal favourite out of the two because of small little snail. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Bring the free camera all the way over, and we'll look at the Inset Terrarium, the desert. So this is supposed to be planet Pertam, where as you can see we've got a lot of stuff going on. We've got little phantasmal butterflies just twiddling around there. We've got a little beetle in the distance, a bunch of little flies in the background, some cacti, some ants on the floor just running around. We've got two separate ones, some just going for a massive marathon from one side to the other. And then we've got some just twiddling around near a plant. We've got some branches, we've got some twigs, we've got some more little foliage just all the way around here. And of course we've got some lights up there, which you can change the colours of like traditional light. So you want to have a blinding pink light in here, well you can do. Yes, that's what it looks like, getting closer over to here. As you can see, the closer we get to the animals in here, barring the snail across over there, they just seem to disappear. Moving closer to this one, there it sort of becomes very ghost-like, where it becomes even more transparent. A little beetle. There we go. Seems like the further away you are, the more clearer it looks. Yes, on the side we do have these secondary viewing ports. There we go. Round towards the back. And there we are. Across to this one, so this is the Inset Terrarium forest. So this could be planet Earth. Well, as you can see, once again, we've got little butterflies just flying around. We've got some glowing bugs just in the background. I've forgotten what they're called. Lantern bugs, maybe. I'm not too sure. Yes, we've got mushrooms, we've got plants, we've got flowers. We've got a little rock. And then down here, this little chap right here. So this is a fully modded snail who's going to be going on a little pattern all around this rock. Just goes round and around and around. And he's just very nicely detailed. Surprisingly detailed for a snail that you're basically not really going to be seeing too often. But no, he's on the inside. Moving up and around, looking at all the flowers, looking at all the mushrooms. Up to there, there's the light. Of course, you can colour them once again. Round into this corner. It's just a nice lot of detail going on. And of course, the snail has not forgotten. If you owe him money, he's on his way to you. And, well, you just can't escape him. Anyway, all the way across here onto the next set of blocks. So these are the Survival Kit Type 2s. Again, they behave exactly like the base game Survival Kits. These are just purely extra flavoured versions, and they work so much more better being built into a ship compared to the old Survival Kit, which looks like it's going to be more on the outside of a small rover or a small ship. So yes, coming up to this is what we'll get on a large block version. Then right next to it is the small block version. As you see down there, it's that little console to actually interact with, and of course to heal yourself, and a little screen that you can customize as well. But yes, looking at this one, this is what we get. There's your screen to heal yourself. Into here's a way to access the inside, actually drag stuff in and out if you want to do that. Looking down the bottom there, we've got some green lights. Nice sort of detail all the way around this thing, with the free camera getting a bit closer look. There at the bottom, all the way up. It looks like it's going to be dispensing out different kind of medical goods that you're asking for. You just punch it in onto the screen, then out it pops right there. That's entirely up to you if you want to use your imagination like that. Over here's a little med kit just hanging on the wall there. Nice bit of decoration. Into here, a little cabinet to store a few bits and pieces inside. I like to imagine there's more med kits on the inside of this thing. Up to here, on the very top. All the way around, there's your connection point on this side. There's what that looks like. Onto the back. Down below it, another connection point. Of course, nothing on that side. For the smaller version, it's a very cut down version of that, where it's basically just taking the left hand side of that thing. Yes, over here, just screen to heal on. Down here's a little icon so you know exactly what this block is going to be for. And then down here, we've then got medical kits. We've got spare ones down there. And that does increase my suspicions of that little rack being for medical kits. So this one is pointing down the here, pull one out. Of course, looking on the inside, there is absolutely nothing. And of course, down there, it's like a little disposing tray to get rid of any kind of used goods. Looking all the way up. Small connection points, all the way down. Large connection point, and of course, on the side, could be not too much. Now moving across to this one, here we go. This is what I was talking about just a second ago with the Auction Generator Mark II. This is what I was thinking about with the food mod, the very old food mod that just spin around. So this is the Inset planter. Free camera once again, not too sure why I keep going into the character, but here we are. So as you can see, we've got a bunch of growing plots on the inside here, just spinning all around at a very slow rate. Once again, the light tube in the middle can be colorized if you want to do that. Change it to a bright pink, a bright red, anything you want to have to match your ship's interior. All it does is just spin around very, very slowly. And, well, if this was the old food mod, you could actually generate food from this, provided you actually put water inside, or whatever the actual component was to actually generate food from this block. For this, onto the side. Not too much going on, but you can use this side for some decoration if you want to do that. Got a little button panel behind some glass, and got little gauges, little knobs to tend to play around with. Onto the back, here's the rear end, so if you want to use this side for some more decoration, having that crisscross shape front and center, there you are. And to the opposite side. There we go, and of course there is no connection point, because the edge is purely decorative. And looking down here, finding the planter, there it is. I suppose what I'll do is just go like that. And there we are, there is a hot ping, just shining off the little lights. Anyway, across to here, so these are basically like the neon tubes, or the pipe blocks from the previous DLC packs. We're going to have a bunch of different blocks that go in all different directions, all different angles, and of course all different types of decorative pieces and endpoints. Free camera once again, outside the pink little planter, looking all the way down. These are the blocks you get in these sets. So as you see, we've got some straight, but it does have a nice bit of detail on the front of there. We've got some hazard strips in the white, and almost like a little rack system to make sure they are nice and straight. Across this one is a broken one. We've got a bunch of little sparks shooting out of it. We see some damaged wires, and of course a bit of electrical effects here and there. Zooming away, here's a little end box. Up and above here, here's one which has an end box with a light on it. Across to this one, corner block. Down to this one, very small corner block. Across over to here, here's one to change the angle. Across this one, an L-shaped one to once again change the angle. Onto this one, zigzag to go from the floor to the ceiling. And of course, one going the opposite direction. Then over to here, here's the camp section, which is much more decorative than square block. So over here, we've got a warning sign. Into this one, a little bump handle with like a little keyhole. And onto this one, getting a bit closer, all the way around, we see this was made in space. Yes, that's what that looks like. Coming all the way up the character. It will not damage you, but as you can see here, the flashing lights or the spark do actually create quite a big, vibrant flashing effect. So if you do not like flashing lights, especially on a dark interior, then simply avoid using this block. That's what it looks like compared to the character, so these are quite big blocks. Then coming over to this one, the storage bins. These are very similar to the freight crates from the previous pack, where they are just simply crates stacked on top of each other, singular one, or just three just haphazardly stacked on top of each other. Yes, up to this one, we can click it, store stuff inside if we want to do that. All the way around is sitting on like a small little metal pallet, held in place by strings. Across to this one, very small one, once again, dump stuff inside. Under this one, we've got triple one, all stacked together. Free camera, all the way across, wherever it's gone. And there we are, just spinning all the way around. Down underneath it, up and above. And they are what they are. So if you don't want to use the square crates, if you want to have something slightly different, or just mix them up, mix and match, these are the blocks for you. Now coming across to these ones, so this is basically the whole reason why you should get this pack. So this is just absolutely amazing. This is the Ore Detector Type 2, and I've been absolutely waiting to get to this one. But yes, it just simply spins around. That's all it does. Exact same function as a regular ore detector, but it's so much more animated, so much more alive, and works so much more better on a lot of ships. Unless, of course, you are building it into the ship where you wouldn't normally be able to see it, having it on the exterior of a ship, on the exterior of a land vehicle, of a base, can look absolutely bloody fantastic. Power turned on and just simply spins all the way around. You see here the little panels at the top here, we've got some plain ones, one with a bit of glass with some stuff behind it, and in the middle here, it's almost like an exhaust block, but on the top, that's what it looks like. On the base itself, on the front here, we've got a little grill section. On the side, onto the back, slightly different here. Down underneath it, quite a different view down below here, which makes it almost like you could use this upside down as a bit of decoration if you want to do that. When I first saw this thing, I was actually expecting it to be a completely flat, flush bottom, but no, this has got a nice bit of decoration below here, which you wouldn't normally be able to see. Anyway, across to here, here's the small one, so exact same thing, she's sitting on the small battery, and she's going to twiddle around. Rather than having 4 arms, this one simply has 2, coming out at an angle, almost like it could fold down into a more compact version of itself, because down the bottom here we've got yellow handles, up and above, some green and red lights on there, and of course we've got a little heat vent along the bottom, looking down, there we go, underneath it through the battery, and there we are once again with some detail we wouldn't normally be able to see. Looking from a distance, and that's about it for the auto detectors. Yes, like I said, this is basically the whole reason why you should get this pack, because that is just so much more better than the base auto detector, so much more life in the block, and just looks overall better even when turned off and not moving. And then finally, last but not least, here are the new warning signs which are very apt for this update and DLC pack, which is, well, the warning signs say radiation hazard, over here, caution, cold environment, then over here, the mess hall, which goes very well for the food stuff they've added. What I will mention right now is the food stuff they did add with this update is an absolute joy to play with. One of the main things with the base game, which does get quite stale over the time, was basically just going after ore, building yourself up with that, then eventually getting the space, make yourself bigger and bigger and bigger, doing whatever goals you set yourself, and then that was that. But having the food in the world as well, and of course I didn't have it enabled in this world because I forgot to set this up in this world, so silly me with that. Yes, having be able to go out and about and scavenge for resources to actually turn into food and actually grow plants adds a whole new layer of gameplay to the game, which I do absolutely love. It's very reminiscent of Imperium. In fact, we're going over Imperium's territory in terms of what the gameplay is, where you can just simply go into a farming simulator if that's what you want to do. Maybe farm up some food, sell it to a vendor, make lots of space credits, build yourself up as per usual, and just spend your life as a farmer rather than just building up massive ships and go destroying space pirates. And of course, if you want to go even further, you could just go a separate route of just building yourself up with farms and then using your money to buy what you need for your adventure instead of building stuff up with drills, instead of waiting for your refineries, waiting for your assemblers. So you buy your way, scavenge your way, it's all jolly good stuff. But other than that, that's all the blocks included in the DLC pack. It's a nice selection, although it does feel quite smaller compared to the other DLC packs I've showcased in the past, but the blocks you get in this are so much more detailed, so much more, well, animated compared to anything else we've had in this game. They just highly recommend downloading it or buying it and actually using it in your world. Of course, these pipe blocks right here, the actual Conduit Set, are very reminiscent of the neon tubes, and of course the pipe blocks, you don't really need to have them, because the terrariums, the ore detector, the odd turned auction farms, the algae farms and all that, they just look so much better. And of course for the welders, the grinders, the drills, they're just such a big upgrade in model detail. I suppose one final thing to do this thing before I end this video is of course grab hold of a block, any block will do, that'll do quite nicely, and we're just going to go with that, nice bright red. I'll just go and select the neon colorable. There we go, just go and make an absolute horrific platform here. So there's the drills, very nice with that, scooting all the way across. And as you can see, quite a few blocks are not actually affected by the neon skin. They are fully coloured, all the way towards the end. There we go, and on the warning signs, the actual border themselves will be coloured. Of course, the sign will just remain the same. Another selection, let's go for the glamour, and I'll go for a nice little purpley colour. That'll do quite nicely. Shoving that down, there we go. So again, the borders get coloured. That gets coloured and skinned. Onto this. They do not get the skin, but they get the colour. They get the skin and colour. They get the skin and colour. And all the way across towards the drills, they get the skin and colour. Suppose another one to check will be the... Let's go for the rusty skin, and I'll go for a nice browny colour. Let's go for that. There we are. So yes, they can use the skin once again. All the way across, very quickly now. And the ones I want to check is this one. and again, they do not get the skin, but they get the colour. So yes, there is that with the different colours very briefly. As I was saying, that's pretty much it for this pack, all that's included, and I do highly recommend getting this pack because it's a bloody good one for what you get in it. Once again, the alternative blocks do not have any kind of advantage over the base game. They function identically, like the drills themselves have the same hitbox, the grinder also have the same hitbox, and all of that. There is no advantage to the auction farm, the algae farm, or the ore detector. They are just identical to the base game, so you don't have to worry about that. But anyway, yes, that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching. I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.